Hello and welcome to the Pretty Good Gaming Daily Triple. That's your no shit gaming news video. 3 news stories in one video with zero faff. Halo is one of Microsoft's only major exclusive franchises these days and was meant to kick off the Xbox Series X release with a bang as a launch title. As it turns out, that won't be happening when the console officially launches, as the game has been delayed, which is a pretty huge deal. The announcement came at the same time as that of the Xbox Series X official release window, which will hit store shelves sometime in November. The Halo Infinite delay was revealed on Twitter by the studio head of 343, Chris Lee, on the official Halo account. The decision to shift our release is the result of multiple factors that have contributed to the developmental challenges, including the ongoing Foster's Fever-related impacts affecting us all this year. The decision to shift our release is the result of multiple factors that have contributed to development challenges, including the ongoing Foster's Fever impacts affecting us all this year. I want to acknowledge the hard work from our team at 343 Industries, who have remained committed to making a great game and finding solutions to development challenges. However, it is not sustainable for the well-being of our team or the overall success of the game to ship this holiday. Undeniably, part of the reason behind this was the less than stellar response to the recent gameplay reveal, which has spawned the now infamous Craig meme. There's no disputing the fact that the game didn't look as good as a lot of people were expecting for a truly next-gen Halo game, especially when the general perception of the franchise isn't anywhere near as strong as it once was after Halo 4 and 5. Low-res textures and flat lighting clearly aren't the only issues with the game, as the statement points out how the ongoing Foster's Fever situation has made life more difficult. Many games have suffered delays this year and have cited this as the reason, which certainly could be a get out of jail free card, but I think most of us can acknowledge and sympathise with how difficult things are right now. As everyone knows by now, a delayed game is always better in the long run than a rushed one. It won't necessarily be a good game, but it will definitely be better than it would have been otherwise. However, Foster's Fever and poor fan reception may not be the only problems that 343 is facing right now. The game lost its creative director back in August last year, and that doesn't exactly speak to a smooth production process and suggests there's more going on behind the scenes at 343 Studios than we know about. This delay, as always, is a good thing. As I said, it will make the game better in the long run, but if you think this means crunch is going to be avoided, then I'm afraid you're mistaken. As the crunch crusader Jason Schreier himself pointed out on Twitter, modern delay announcements often include a line like, "the well-being of our team," but as I've reported a few times in the past, I've never heard of a AAA delay leading to less crunch. Internally, the messaging is, okay guys, let's keep pushing, gotta keep this momentum going. Now, there's no proof at the moment that crunch is happening on Halo Infinite, but it's documented that the devs went through a really bad crunch on Halo 4, so it's certainly possible that it will happen again. Beyond Halo itself, this is bad news for Microsoft as a whole, as it just lost its biggest launch title for the Xbox Series X, which will undoubtedly affect the console sales. Clearly, that's a risk Microsoft is willing to take, and the company is promising thousands of games for the console at launch. However, if you look even a little closer, many of these games are in fact titles that already came out or have been optimized for Xbox Series X, meaning that the console lacks any exclusive big hitters. Xbox Game Pass is Microsoft's biggest gaming asset going into the next generation, and while it's an amazing service and great value, I'm not sure if it's strong enough to carry the console until some serious first-party exclusives come along. Missing out on Halo Infinite until 2021 is a huge blow to Microsoft, but I am still curious to see if this risk pays off somehow. And next up, EA's shareholders have rejected the decision to raise executive pay compensation. I recently covered this story with Activision and how the company was going to increase pay compensation of its senior executives despite not increasing company earnings to the same extent. Shareholders were able to vote in a say on pay vote, which would determine how much the executives would get paid as compensation on top of whatever salary they got. EA had the same situation going on, but now it's been confirmed that the shareholders have rejected that compensation increase. EA is obviously a massive company and received 170.89 million votes against pay increases versus 59.6 million in favor. The number of voters is pretty huge, but let's just touch on the amount of money that was at stake here. Andrew Wilson, EA CEO / part-time murder android, was to gain 21.37 million in compensation, including 4 million in non-equity incentives. That's not pay in total, that's just compensation. This compensation was to increase from 2019's 18.3 million for the fiscal year, which is still an absolutely insane number, but all these corporate execs just want more. EA COO Blake Jorgensen missed out on the biggest compensation upgrade, as he was set to go from 9.41 million from 2019 to 19.5 million in 2020. Similarly, Chief Studios Officer Laura Meal was meant to go from 6.95 million in 2019 compensation to 16.1 million in 2020. All of these corporations earn such insane amounts of money, and it's not even counted in their salary, which is already absurdly high. Now, it's important to note that this vote from shareholders is only an advisory decision, meaning that if the the executives really wanted to keep this pay compensation, they could. However, that generally never happens, and execs will typically follow the shareholders' vote, and that's only because the execs need to keep the shareholders happy. EA published its first quarter results for the 2021 fiscal year in late July and reported that net revenue of live games had risen to $1 billion, a 16% increase year over year. Full game sales, on the other hand, are much lower, hitting $359 million, which is still 37% higher year over year. So the way to look at it is, while the sales of full games have grown more, the total revenue of live services still dwarfs it. None of us like EA's current stance on single player games and how they don't make any money, but you have to admit the live service numbers make so much more. All this is in no small part to the quarantine, with more people staying inside and playing games than usual. Altogether, EA's net revenue reached $1.46 billion, which is 21% up year over year for the quarter. However, income, i.e. profit, is significantly lower. Net income reached $356 million, which is way down from last year's $1.42 billion. But apparently this is linked to a tax event which involves Swiss bank accounts as usual, and my tiny brain can't handle that sort of bullshit. I've had enough talk of all these numbers, so really all you need to know is that EA still earns a shit ton of money, but the shareholders have determined that the executives shouldn't get even more compensation. Jesus Christ, talking about EA's finances is almost as boring as playing its games. Almost.
Blow that piece of junk out of the sky!
And finally, if there's one thing Ubisoft knows how to do besides mistreating its own employees, it's mistreating its IPs. People have been waiting years for the return of Splinter Cell and Sam Fisher, but it seems like Ubisoft is trying everything to keep the IP relevant, except making an actual game. In addition to Sam's appearance in the Tom Clancy's Elite Squad mobile game and Ghost Recon Breakpoint, as well as a new Netflix series, he's now going to show up in Rainbow Six Siege. In a trailer for Rainbow Six Siege Operation Shadow Legacy, he was teased to be joining the game, but you wouldn't even really know it was him until his name card came up. The gruff, bearded old soldier man is the most generic way you could put Sam into a Rainbow Six game, but this is Ubisoft after all, so what the hell else should we have expected? More info about Operation Shadow Legacy is meant to be revealed this Sunday, the 16th of August at 11 AM Pacific Time, 2 PM Eastern Time, or 7 PM UK time. Honestly though, at this point I just expect Sam Fisher to show up in Assassin's Creed Ragnarok before getting a game of his own. I mean, just look at that beard.
Notice you've copied my beard?
And that's it for today. If you like this no shit format, go ahead and give the video a like to give it a boost, hit subscribe and the bell to stay notified about all future installments. Toss a coin to your YouTuber over at patreon.com/prettygoodgaming. I've been Henry Cooper. That's all for today. Bye for now.